You're listening to Sox in the Basement, a production of the Broadcast Basement Limited, where every show is 30 minutes of good and comes from a basement bar on the south side of Chicago. Pull up a stool, pour a cold one, and join us right now for Sox in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found, and always at soxinthebasement.com. I've had so many things rattling around my head, from the fact that we've got arbitration to the fact that my father just out of the blue bought a 20-game plan.
He's like, after he's like, I'm never giving this team any money again.
Yeah.
And then I bought season tickets. Yeah.
He drank enough of the Kool-Aid this offseason. He's in. Okay. Dad's in. He's ready to spend money. I think it's hysterical. So I wanted to kind of talk about that. And I want to talk a little bit about, you wanted to talk about a little bit about Nick Madrigal.
Second base.
What's going to happen at second base. And we could talk a little bit about that. Plus, White Sox did a lot with their player development in the minor leagues. They made a bunch of announcements on Monday. And we have actually one of their new members, a guy brought into Double-A to help with hitting. Hired away from the Red Sox organization, local guy. His name is Devin DeYoung. He's going to be on the program today as well.
Of Windy City Thunderbolts.
He was Windy City Thunderbolts at one point.
Just because, hey, I used to live in Crestwood, so hey, go Thunderbolts. I could walk to the ballpark. Hey, man, dollar beer and dollar hot dog day on Thursdays. Hey,
yeah,
man,
and wrestling. So here's what I want to start with first. I want 3 minutes. It might get to 5, where I explain why what happened with the Houston Astros this week and the terrible decision by Major League Baseball to only suspend the general manager and the manager for a year. They were fired right afterwards. Affects White Sox fans. In fact, it should upset White Sox fans more than any other fan base in Major League Baseball. Except maybe the Dodgers, who lost a World Series as a result of this. They could be upset as well. But I'm going to tell you why White Sox fans should be annoyed.
So I have not followed the story too closely. Like, I know of it. So give me the Reader's Digest version.
All right. Monday, it comes out, the report from Major League Baseball about what happened with the Astros stealing signs. They were using replay. They had monitors set up. They were figuring out how to steal the signs, and then they were using like garbage cans to bang on the can. Like, they'd be like, this is the pitch to look for. When you hear the garbage can banging, then you know that the pitch is coming. So guys know what's coming and know what to lay off of. You could find all kinds of home runs by Alex Bregman where you hear this bang, 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 bang in the background while the crowd is cheering, and then all of a sudden he hits a bomb because he knows what's coming. So the report comes out from Major League Baseball, and the report essentially says the players came up with it. Carlos Beltran is heavily involved in this thing, okay? The players come up with this, and a lot of the staff in the background. Now, the manager knows about it, and the manager, A.J. Hinch, gets angry enough that he actually breaks the equipment that they're using to cheat several times, but never does anything else. Never even reports it to the general manager, supposedly. The GM and the manager are fired. All of the players will get away scot-free with no suspensions.
Interesting.
Okay?
Wow.
The players will get. This is why this is insulting. This is insulting to me as a White Sox fan. This is insulting to me as a baseball fan. And the reason why it's not enough is that this commissioner of Major League Baseball seems to have no intention of letting Pete Rose back into the game. This commissioner of Major League Baseball has no intention of letting Shoeless Joe Jackson get into the Hall of Fame or clearing Buck Weaver's name. If you're going to say we're not punishing any players even though they participated, basically saying they're children. They're children. They don't know any better. They're just players. They're just dumb, stupid players. They don't know they're cheating. Why would we punish them? If we punished them, we wouldn't get a lot of revenue from Houston. Why? Because Jose Altuve wouldn't be out there anymore. And Alex Bregman wouldn't be out there anymore. And George Springer wouldn't be out there anymore. And all these people that we keep doing all these commercials for wouldn't be out there anymore. That would hurt us. So we're going to act like they're just innocent participants. It's their dad's fault, the manager. It's their grandfather's fault, the general manager. It's not their fault. Well, if that's the take you're going to have on it, Rob Manfred, if that's the take you're going to have on it, Major League Baseball, then put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. Okay? Put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame, because he didn't do anything that was as bad as this. He didn't steal a World Series from another fan base. He didn't do anything that bad. Shoeless Joe Jackson hit over 400 in the 1919 World Series. He's guilty because he was in the room when they were discussing throwing it and he didn't report it. And Buck Weaver had nothing to do with it with the 1919 Black Sox. There are plenty of other people that have been blackballed by Major League Baseball for doing far less than what these players did, and they're not going to take 1 day of suspension. Not 1 day. And that's why it's ridiculous to me. That's why it's not enough. If you're going to be a sport that talks about history and how you protect the integrity of the game, if you're going to be the sport that says that even though Barry Bonds would have been a Hall of Famer before he started taking horse steroids and his head swelled up to 3 times the size of the planet Mars, if you're going to be that sport that's going to say even though Roger Clemens was a Hall of Famer before he started cheating, he's not going in, then why? Why is Jose Altuve starting on day 1? Why is Alex Bregman starting on day 1 when there's videotape of him? There's literally videotape of him up at the plate while somebody's banging a garbage can. You could find the breakdowns everywhere. All these guys were involved, but they're not going to be touched because they're children. They're just naive. They're naive players. I mean, you know what you were like at the age of 30, like George Springer. You didn't know what was going on in the world. You were a babe in the woods. Give me a break. This is a joke.
I've been saying this for a while. Like, if you're going to keep Pete Rose out, but then you're going to sweep under the rug things like this, or if you want to go back about 10 years, if you're going to sweep under the rug the whole steroid era thing, you're right. It's not fair. Now, there's something that I keep thinking of something like as you're describing this to me. This is very similar to another sport, another team, another town that I follow because of my wife. This is very similar to the New Orleans Saints Bountygate thing and how the NFL reacted to that. And that left such a bad taste in my mouth that I stopped watching football for a very long time because it was just handled so incorrectly, in my opinion. When I hear you talk about this with the Astros, it's bringing back all of that. So yes, I get it. I get the anger. I see why you're upset about this.
You have every right as a baseball fan to be upset about this because Major League Baseball copied the NFL on how they disciplined here.
Right.
Instead of copying their own precedent of 130 plus years of baseball. I mean, it's insulting to me. And you know what this really comes down to? This comes down to what the commissioner is now compared to what the commissioner used to be. Remember, Kennesaw Mountain Landis was brought in after the 1919 Black Sox scandal. Trust me, you can find movies and books, and you can go. I used to go to the Chicago Historical Society when I was writing a paper on it in high school. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can find all the details in this. What happens is everybody knows they cheated. The owner knows they cheated. The manager is angry at them, but they're good. And it was a thing that was happening all throughout baseball, which it sounds like this might be happening with other teams. Okay.
Currently, you're talking about the Astros, not the 19 Sox. Just to clarify, you're talking about the
19
Astros.
Sox. There were guys that were throwing games. That was a regular thing. If you go back, you look at it. There were teams that would throw regular games, but the World Series had never been thrown before.
Okay.
And in this case, we've had teams that have stolen signs. There probably are other teams that are doing it in Major League Baseball, but this affected the outcome of a World Series. The parallels are so similar to this entire thing. The only difference is, whereas the White Sox played the 2020 season and would have probably gone on to play the 1920 World Series if not for a new commissioner being brought in, because baseball had this stain on it for not doing anything to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they looked bad. That's the only reason Landis came in, and Landis only agreed to do it if he was there for life, and they had no influence over him. And until Abe Bartlett Giametti died suddenly in office and Bud Selig came in, commissioners were stronger. Hence, Pete Rose.
Right.
Okay. But now the commissioner serves almost like Roger Goodell does for NFL at the pleasure of the owners.
Because the way it is in the NFL, it's the owners that elect the commissioner. And I'm pretty sure it's that way in baseball, is it not?
Well, and here's the thing. The bottom line to this entire thing is baseball showed itself to be weak by doing this. Free Shoeless Joe Jackson. Free Buck Weaver. Free Pete Rose. Okay? Because if this is what your standard is, if Jose Altuve is going out there and Alex Bregman's going out there and these guys are going to take no punishment at all for cheating the game, you've embarrassed the sport and you've let down the fans. This is so similar to 1919. A World Series after a full season of baseball was tainted and the results are tainted. And 100 years ago, they did the right thing. And they threw out the Black Sox.
Right.
And 100 years later, they're doing the wrong thing by kicking out a general manager didn't even know anything about. I mean, think about if this commissioner handled 1919.
Oh, jeez.
The manager of the White Sox it'd have been one man out. Because Comiskey was the owner, he didn't even have a GM. It'd be one man out. Instead of 8 men out, it'd be 1 man out. And would it have been fair? Absolutely, positively, no way would it have been fair. It's not fair here. I want to make a quick announcement. Those on Twitter already know about it. Sox in the Basement, starting on March 1st, officially sponsored by Cork and Kerry at the Park. You're going to start seeing the logo on the Sox in the Basement podcast image whenever you're playing everything. You'll hear all about Cork and Kerry at the Park. You'll see us out at Cork and Kerry at the Park. It's now the new home base for Sox in the Basement listeners and Sox in the Basement itself. So we're very, very excited about this. There'll be more details about this to come out. I'm excited to be part of the whole thing. Cork and Kerry at the Park is excited to be a part of the entire thing. This feels like a really good partnership that I think is going to benefit everybody involved and give us more of a chance to be out there right around the ballpark much more often. And it's going to give us a little bit of an influx here in resources to be able to continue to grow the show, make it bigger. I know a lot of people have been clamoring for 2 days a week. That's really starting to become a possibility later on down the line. Before we get into Nick Madrigal, Dad bought a 20-game plan.
I'm still laughing about this.
I mean, it's
just out of the blue. He's like, "Hey, I bought season tickets."
So this is what he does. I call him up last week and I go, "Hey, I'm thinking about getting a plan. I'm going to get it through the podcast. Do you want to go in on it with me?" And he's like, "Yeah, maybe. I'm not sure." And I'm like, "I want to sit in the outfield. I like the outfield reserves. I like being on the lower deck. I don't want to be in the bleachers. I like being in the outfield reserve. The price is right. That's what I'm thinking about doing." All right, I'll think about it. I hassle him all weekend long.
Okay.
Hey, let me know if you want to do this. I tell him on Saturday. On Sunday, I say, they're going to be putting individual tickets out on Wednesday, which meant the pre-sale was on Tuesday. I'm like, they're going to be putting the individual tickets out. We got to do this soon if we're going to do it. Yeah, I don't know. I'll give you a call tomorrow. Calls me on Monday morning. I bought 20 games. I said, "You what?" He's like, "Yeah, I bought them in a 300 level." I'm like, "I didn't want to do the 300 level." He's like, "Yeah, it's on me." I'm like, "What?"
Nice.
He's like, "It's like the old days." He's completely drunk the Kool-Aid. He's spending money, and he's sitting at this is the same guy that stopped buying beer in the middle of a game
I remember
last
this.
year.
I was going to bring
Jerry
this up.
Reinsdorf was cheap, and he was never buying another beer again. What an off season, because you took Dad and got him to buy season tickets for the first time in a decade. He's back in 2020.
Well, I mean, look, if there is some takeaway from this ridiculous story you're telling me about your dad, hey man, if you spend it, they will come.
Yeah, he came. That's
if you spend it, if you spend the money, if you bring the people, if you bring the talent, they will come, man.
Yeah.
Spend money to make money, dude.
My ticket agent's going to be very upset because he calls me like every week and he goes, "Are we going to buy any?" I'm like, "I'm just waiting on my dad. I'm seeing whether or not he wants to be in or if I'm buying them on my own." And now the guy's going to call me. I'm like, "Yeah, Dad already bought the tickets." I'm so sorry. Every offseason, Major League Baseball teams start going out and making moves that don't make the front page headlines. And they make a lot of moves that go into their minor league organization, such as player development. One of the moves that was made just recently is the White Sox going out and getting a new player development guy by the name of Devin DeYoung. And Devin is on the phone lines with us right now. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good. I appreciate you coming on the line. Now, first of all, you're a local guy, right? You're like right on the Indiana-Illinois border.
Yeah, I'm in St. John, Indiana, and I grew up in South Holland, Illinois. So I was probably 20 minutes from Sox Park.
And along with several other organizations, you actually were with the Thunderbolts at one point, the Windy City Thunderbolts, and you just came from the Red Sox organization. So before we jump into what you're doing with the White Sox this year, was the Windy City Thunderbolts like your first one because, it's close to your area, or how did you end up there?
In 2015, I signed a player's contract with the Rockland Boulders in the Can-Am League, which just merged with the Frontier League. And I was a professional player for about 5 seconds. And then I was so good at playing that they asked me to coach instead. So I immediately got into coaching at the professional level. I was helping out with the scouting workout for the Arizona Diamondbacks in Crestwood at Standard Bank Stadium. and the manager there said, "Hey, you wanna be on my staff?" So then I spent 2 seasons with the Windy City Thunderbolts.
How exciting is it to go into an organization that has so much young talent that we're starting to see now come to the majors in Chicago? But there's still guys down there. There's going to be guys that if you work on them and they figure something out, they're right there. They're ready to take that next step almost. And they're either going to end up on the major league roster very soon, or they're going to end up as somebody that gets moved because some other team's going to say that's a major league ready player and the White Sox are looking for something. But you have Miker Adolfo down there. And Miker's one of those guys that gets mentioned from time to time as he could end up on the major league team. And he's already on the 40-man roster. Have you looked at some of these guys and said, these are guys I want to focus on, these are guys I want to meet, these are guys I want to help? Like, how much do you know already about the roster that you're going to be joining?
Well, when I'm dealing with players, I want to help everybody. I try to give everybody just as much attention and compassion. The big thing for me is getting to know the players on a personal level and developing a relationship with these guys just so I can connect with them. By no means do I have the golden ticket, but I'm definitely just willing to help.
How much do you subscribe to the new era of analytics, and how much do you look at, like, computer graphics, what a guy's launch angle is?
The more we dive into biomechanics and analytics and data collection, the more we realize our eyes do lie to us. So I try to get a complete picture from every angle, as much information as possible. And I'll, with a specific player, I'll dive in for 2-3 days just so that I can answer one question for these guys. But yeah, I mean, I'm driven by analytics and all the metrics, but I'm more worried about the human element because we're dealing with people, not products.
Do you get a mandate from the team from above where they say this is our organizational philosophy on certain things? Like, you hear from certain organizations like, we subscribe straight to launch angle, or we have we want guys to learn something in the minors so that as they come up and they get to the majors, we're doing it the same way. Do they kind of give you like an outline, like this is White Sox baseball?
Yeah, there's always some sort of a philosophy wherever you go. With the White Sox, it seems like they are constantly trying to better their organization. So that was a big piece of why I wanted to be involved.
Devin, I know that you got, I don't want to keep you forever, and I really appreciate you jumping on and talking with me. I hope that you enjoy Birmingham this year. We talked to a few people down in Birmingham. Enjoy that. I'm sure it'll be really, really warm in the summertime down there.
Yeah.
But, have a blast. And, one of these days, maybe we'll get you here to the 9-foot homemade oak bar in Evergreen Park, where I'm at on the south side, and we could talk a little bit more baseball once you get your feet wet with the White Sox.
For sure. Yeah, if I could just say quickly, my background was in independent baseball, and for anybody listening, these indie ball guys are grinding hard. They may be grinding harder than affiliated guys who grind harder than anybody. But any Southside people out there, go check out a Windy City Thunderbolts game. I'm forever grateful, forever in debt to the Windy City Thunderbolts organization. Do that for me.
And they do wrestling, I think, on like Wednesdays or Thursday nights. I've been there for that as well.
I'll tell you what, man, that the wrestling Thursdays, the White Castle wrestling is awesome, man. It is awesome. You get a minor league baseball game, then professional wrestling afterwards, and you can usually catch the players up by the ring, and you can interact with them a little bit.
I always love when they bring like an old WWE star from like the early 90s out there. And at that point, the game has ended. Everybody's been sitting out in the stands having a couple of brews, and it gets to be kind of a really fun time to watch that. Yeah, you get to you get to meet some pretty cool people. Like we had Booker T come out, and Jake the Snake came out, and it's pretty awesome if you grew up watching WWE or whatever it's called now. Changes constantly. Well, I appreciate you coming on, Devin, and good luck to you this year, and we hope to hear from you again soon.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, this is Acoustic Mike from Broadcast Basement, and you're listening to Sox in the Basement with Chris and his buddy Dave. I did the Broadcast Basement with Chris for 10 years, and nobody gave me a show. I'd leave if I had anything else to do with my life.
Remember, the Broadcast Basement is available everywhere podcasts can be found and always at broadcastbasement.com. Danny Mendick, second base. Let's talk about
Is that what's happening here? I mean,
What do
well,
you think?
because all right, here's
I had my theory, but I want to
here's what I would like to happen. What I would like to happen in my perfect world is that Nick Madrigal comes out, has a hell of a spring training, and he forces the issue, and service time be damned, he is your starting second baseman on opening day. Do I realistically think that's going to happen? No, because number one, I think he would have to have a hell of a spring training in order for the Sox to negate the service time thing. And even if he had a reasonably good spring training, I think the White Sox will still use the argument of they'll still find some reason to keep him down there for that time to where they don't lose a year of service time. So do I want him to be your starting second baseman opening day? Yes. Do I think it's going to happen? No. So my question then is, assuming that he's not going to be, what do you do? What do you put up there? Do you put a Danny Mendick platooned with a Leury Garcia at second base? Or are you going to go out and are you going to get like a stopgap, like some sort of veteran dude just as a placeholder until, Madrigal gets there? What do you think, Chris?
Well, first of all, it's stupid to do service time with Nick Madrigal because he's never going to command the kind of money that you would need to play service games with.
I agree.
And that's stupid. Secondly, we already know, and we've said this before on the show, there are people that are closer to the organization who have told me that Ricky Renteria wanted Luis Robert and Nick Madrigal up at the back end of last year and was frustrated that he didn't have them up there.
Right.
So Ricky wants Mads at second base. And if he plays really well, it'll be the manager and the organization possibly in some sort of a tug of war. And it'll be interesting to see, is Ricky the kind of guy, remember Ozzie Guillen used to just go right to the press. Right? He used to just go right to the press like, well, he's a really good guy. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what Kenny's thinking.
Only Guillen would be on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be great? I mean, like, I would love for Ricky to just get a little Ozzie in him and kind of force the issue in spring training. I'd be pretty proud of him if he was able to pull something like that off. So I would still like to see him break with the team, and there's a lot of me that thinks he will. But if he doesn't, I think it's Danny Mendick just sitting at second base. I don't know if they're going to go out and get somebody else. I find it interesting. Mendick is listed. He's going to be at Sox Fest. Mm-hmm. Okay. They're trotting him out there because they see him as part of the team. I don't think that he would be, signing autographs or sitting in a symposium or whatever they're going to end up doing with him if they didn't say this guy has an excellent chance of making the roster.
Well,
I don't think Leury Garcia is likely to be playing second base. I mean, you might see Ricky, if depending on what he thinks of Mendick, he might not like Mendick, so he goes, okay, you're going to give me this guy, I'm going to play Leury at second. That'll be the interesting dynamic, because I think in the end, it's going to be the organization trying to tell the manager this is what we want. And if the manager doesn't like it, you might see the manager do something different with what he sends out there. So it's a really interesting storyline.
We don't have a big enough sample size of Danny Mendick, in my opinion, is the problem. We sang the praises of Danny Ladies Man Mendick.
He
with
opens
his
up the
shirt
button at the
halfway
top.
open, right?
Oh,
yeah. We were when September call-ups happened. We were like, look, Ricky, enough with Yolmer already. All right. We know that Yolmer is not going to be here. Stop playing him every day. Let's see what Mendick can do. If they're not going to bring up Madrigal for September call-ups, which they didn't, then at least see what you got with Mendick. And in my opinion, we did not see enough of him. So what we saw, we really liked.
Right. I mean,
beyond just his machismo and his chest hairs and everything.
Danny Mendick
we saw baseball that we liked out of him.
Yeah, Danny Mendick gives me thoughts that I haven't had in years. I mean, he had 39 at bat.
Hey Chris, it is 2020. It's okay to make those thoughts public.
He had 39 at bats. He had 2 home runs. He hit 308 with a 787 OPS at second base in a very short sample size. So I have no problem trotting him out there because I know Madrigal's eventually coming, and this is probably something that only lasts a couple of weeks if he doesn't start the season right away. So I'm not upset if they don't go out and get another second baseman. That wouldn't make me angry.
No.
Like, I'm not going to be like pitchforks and screaming about it. And I think I would accept it if Danny Mendick's out there and you have Leury as the Swiss Army knife this year. I expect him to be used even more like that. We've talked about the fact that Adam Engel can platoon out in right field, and I think he's going to be on the team as well. So you have a couple of nice little pieces that could kind of be moved around on the team. I think spring training is going to indicate a lot about Danny Mendick. Like, is he taking everything at second base? Do they have him try any other kind of utility role just to kind of try him out and see if something happens, or is he just straight up at second? You know, because they're going to be preparing for the entire season on this thing. I think they know what Nick Madrigal is. They know. We've all seen what he is. I mean, they know what he is. He doesn't have a lot of pop, and maybe they want to keep him down in AAA because they honestly think that there's something that can be done, but they might want to get him up here with their new hitting coach as well. So that'll be the interesting thing. I find the whole thing that I find interesting about the White Sox this year is what they did in the offseason that hasn't gotten a lot of press. And the thing they haven't gotten a lot of press on is what they've changed with their minor league player development. They went out and made an announcement on Monday.
Right,
They've made a lot of changes. They have a new manager at AAA. They have a new manager at AA. They've gone out to get guys for player development, like our guest, Devin DeYoung. A lot of these guys have to do with hitting. One of the biggest problems the White Sox have is that their prospects are very top heavy. And there's a lot of guys who seem to have stalled that we thought were going to be. I mean, remember, Blake Rutherford at one point was a top 50 prospect on MLB Pipeline.
Yeah.
He's nowhere to be seen anymore. There are guys that showed a lot of promise, but then had weird second halves. There's a reason that Omar Vizquel was removed. There's a reason why there's a shakeup in the minor leagues. The Sox are saying there should be more. Some of these guys, when we're seeing across the board in the minors some problems, we're bringing in other guys, okay? Devin said it. The White Sox do have a basic plan about what they want you to do. And they want guys to succeed and to thrive. Chris Getz has looked at something and said, we need to make sweeping changes.
Those are the kinds of things that the White Sox typically don't do.
Again, something else to be happy with.
Exactly.
Okay, they're making change. They're saying, hey, not all these prospects are working out. The guys that are up at the top, we're not worried about them. So we're going to see if we can do something different with these other guys.
We have bemoaned the White Sox player development through the minor leagues for years. Dude, like, what was the last position player that came up through the Sox minor league system that ended up, coming up and being anything? It was like Joe Crede.
I'm looking at Dad's schedule here for his 20 games. And I got opening day, which is amazing.
Okay.
Pretty pumped about that. So I have opening day and he can't go. So I'm going opening day. As a result of that, since I'm going to the game, and I talked to our new sponsors, Cork and Carry at the park, we're going to do something over the weekend. So opening weekend, we're going to be at Cork and Carry at the park. I think we're leaning towards the Saturday right now.
Okay.
We're going to have that short up very soon with you, but we've already had talks with them. The Sox in the Basement will be out there because it's all day games. And that's just a fun weekend. And people will be out partying because it's opening weekend. And so that should be like a fun event. So, but I get to go to opening day, which is really cool. I've got a Twins game coming up here in April on a Friday night.
What is the opening day? What
Thursday, March 26th at 1 p.m. against the Royals.
And then they usually have the Friday off.
Friday off in case there's a rain out.
And then the Saturday.
They'll do Saturday, Sunday to finish that series.
And those are all day games.
They'll all be day games,
Okay.
the entire thing, okay? So I've got that one. Unfortunately, I've got 2 Royals games, but at least it's probably 2 wins. Except the White Sox normally suck on opening day, but I expect an energy in that ballpark, and maybe the team will just be super pumped up, and we'll just jump right off. Who knows? But I do like the fact that I have 2 Twins games on Friday nights. I got Twins on Friday, July 24th, and Twins on Friday, April 10th. Those will be fun.
Very
games,
nice.
You
Yes,
know,
yes.
like I don't care that I don't have a Cubs game. It doesn't really bother me at all. I think that sometimes you go out there and it's amateur hour and everybody's just fighting and I'm not interested at all. But I have 2 Twins games and I have 2 Indians games. And I think those are and then I get a lot of beat up the Tigers games. I think I count 3 of them in his plan that he ended up with. And I get a Dodgers on September the 8th, which
let's
be kind of fun.
Let's hope they beat up the Tigers.
For
Jesus.
the Dodgers game, I'm gonna get a sign that says you guys should have won the 2017 World Series. And I'm just
Nice.
going to hold it up. That's what I'm going to do.
Whatever you do, don't get a garbage can out there and start banging on it. You're going to give them PTSD. Or actually, you know what? Do that.
Yeah.
Throw them off. Psych them out.
Like, that should be the way that people deal with the Dodgers this year when they come into town. There should be garbage can day where you hand it out and people just bang on the garbage cans. Or at least when the Astros show up, they should be doing it. If somebody in Major League Baseball doesn't come up with the garbage can banging, like, I'm calling on Section 108 right now.
Oh, those guys will do it.
I want
Those
garbage
guys will
cans.
do it.
I'll go out there with them. We're going to get some garbage cans. That Dodger game would be a fun game to just stand out there and bang garbage cans every time that their pitchers are on the mound.
Oh,
right?
man.
Just like get them all freaked out.
Socks in the basement. Socks in the basement. Socks in the basement.
Socks in the Basement. Heard everywhere podcasts can be found and always on socksinthebasement.com.